everyone. We'll call the meeting of Community Services to order on April 20th at 9 o'clock. We'll have a roll call, please.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Ms. Parker?
Present.
Ms. Polk?
Present.
Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters?
Present.
Mr. Tholen? Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Darrell Smith?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Ms. Bryan?
Present.
Ms. Hudson? Mr. Kenneth Smith?
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Searoy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. You've received in the email the minutes from the March 16th meeting. So if I could have, excuse me, could I have a motion to include that minutes as well as the county clerk, the assessor, the recorder, and animal control reports. Mr. Kirkstra will say again on Zoom.
Parker.
Ms. Parker will second it. We'll have a roll call for all that, please.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Darrell Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Ms. Bryan?
Aye.
Ms. Hudson?
Aye.
Mr. Kenneth Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Thank you. First, we then have the county clerk's report. We've approved it, so what are you highlighting for us today?
Oh, I just wanted to go over a couple of things. You know, obviously, once we get our mail in today, we will be certifying the results for the April 6th, 2021 consolidated election. And while the turnout percentage in Kankakee County was just at 18%, I'd rather recognize some of the areas where the turnout percentage was significantly higher. Village of Grant Park had a 43% turnout. Aroma Park Village was over 30%. City of Kankakee, citywide, was over 30%, but the 3rd Ward was over 40%, 38% in the 4th Ward, and 37, almost 38% in the 6th Ward. So, you know, there were several areas throughout the county where there were no contested races, and that's part of the reason why the turnout percentage as a county overall was diminished a little bit. But good, clean election. I can't thank my staff enough. As always, they do a phenomenal job. Thanks to everybody else that helps out with the process. Practically every department in this building helps out to some extent. So thank you for that. And we're on the road with our next projects. So as we stand right now, we are in tax extension time. And I know those of you that are on the Finance Committee had heard that there was a possibility that we would be running a little bit late with our extensions over to the treasurer. I just want to let you know that based on our calculations, there's no reason that we won't have those out at the same time we normally do. Last year, we didn't get it rolled over to the treasurer until May 6th. That was because of COVID. We were short-staffed in the office, so we didn't have as much personnel being able to work on it prior to that. But you know, if you look at the average for the last 10 years, we are right at May 1st, and I don't see any reason why we won't hit that this time. So there's no, there won't be any impetus on our part, or any problems on our part to make sure that we get the treasurer the data on time so he can get his bills out. So,
thanks for confirming that. That's good.
not a problem. One of the things that I did want to talk about with the election that was a little bit of a concern for us was election judges. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to work the November election. We have no problems getting judges for the November election. It's the other elections in the cycle that create problems for us. We had 212 judges working in the county on election day, and if 57 polling places, that's not 4 in each polling place. We can make do with that. It's not an ideal situation. Certainly for a bigger election, it would create a problem for us. we're going to do everything we can about, getting the word out to increase participation among the public to serve as election judges. Anything that, y'all can do to help that out would be, certainly welcome and appreciated. We did give them a raise a couple of years ago to increase their pay. We are on the upper end as far as election judge pay goes. So I don't know that we can dangle a bigger carrot in front of people for that. But it is a concern, and it will be a continuing concern. I'm not sure if COVID had any factor to do with that, or just because it's an odd year election, the interest isn't as pronounced as it is for general elections. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Other things that we're working on, we've got an RFP for new voting equipment. We're going to have that. State's Attorney's Office is currently reviewing that now. Would like to have that out pretty soon. Our timeline for that is for the next community services meeting. Following community services meeting, we'd like to have demonstrations of the equipment for all the vendors. Now in Illinois, there's only 4 approved vendors for voting equipment. So we will certainly be reaching out to all 4 of them. Whether or not they wish to participate in the RFP process is entirely up to them. But I've pretty much allocated every free space in this building on the 18th of May. So if they wish to participate, we will have a spot for them. Certainly, I would encourage anybody in this committee to stop by and take a look at the equipment. We're going to be inviting judges. Certainly all of my staff will be taking a look at it. We're looking at probably having the RFP returned back to our office either the end of May or right before the June Community Services Committee meeting. We'd open them up at the Community Services Committee in June, take it to Finance, and then if everything goes well, to full board. So.
And you don't need them until, you won't need those machines until next 22?
God willing, our next election will be March of 2022.
Oh, that's another whole idea, isn't it?
That being said, with redistricting, with the data being an issue, there is a possibility that the General Assembly might, because they need to change dates for getting lines drawn, might change the date of that March primary. So, absent a special election, we won't have another election in Kankakee County this year.
Which is a very nice window for you to get this equipment.
Normally, the odd years are a little bit of a time where, the office can catch a breath. But, as this is a redistricting year, and yeah, that's not happening. So just a couple other things, and we talked about redistricting, and I apologize to those of you who are on the committee. I should have made my presence at the last redistricting committee, and I didn't, and I will do better on next committee meetings for those. Economic interest statements are due May 15th. There's at least a couple of you on this committee that haven't filed your economic interest statement yet. I'm not naming names, but
Are you pointing
I can, if you want me to send you a private email, I certainly can. I don't want to call you out in a public forum, but if you could get that taken care of that as soon as possible, that would be great. Otherwise, I got to sick the state's attorneys on you, and I don't want to do that. So does anybody have any questions at all? I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
So what I'd like to mention is that even though election judges were down rather than what you would want them to be, I coordinated four different polling places, Reddick, Essex, and Two Herscher. They did just fine with the numbers 3 or whatever they had.
The judges we had is always, they do a phenomenal job. My fear or concern is that in Norton, 2 of the 3 judges that were working at that polling place were not from Norton. So, God bless the people that came to help out. You try to get people that work in the area where the polling place is because they know the people that are coming in. But, obviously we have to have the election. We can't say, well, we're not going to have an election in Norton because I don't have anybody to work it. So, But, you know, if one of those three would have called in sick, we would have had some concerns. We had no backup judges for this election. And, you know, big thank you to my election judge coordinator, my chief deputy, Lori Thatcher. She's the one that handles the coordinating of all the judges. So, you know, the day before the election, there was still a little bit of maneuvering that she needed to do, but she does a great job with that. So.
Well, and the second thing is that the results is one thing to have an election. The other is to record the results. And your website is marvelous. That by 9, 10 o'clock, I knew every precinct had been done. I knew that the sales tax in Herscher passed, which we were glad for. Yeah. And you knew who won.
There was one polling place that we were waiting on the results on until a little bit after 9, and that was, you know, that's the come on, let's get in here. But apart from that, yeah, everything came in, and once we started getting the results in, you know, we were updating the website every 10, 15 minutes.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah. And then just last thing is on mail-in votes or voting early. What was the ratio of who voted that day and who voted early?
This was a little bit different just because the window for early voting for this election, because the primary election was so close to our window was narrowed. We had in-person voting for less than 3 weeks before the election, and we still had over you know, approximately 2,000 votes that were cast either through mail ballots or people coming into the office. So, you know, to compare that to previous elections, it's not necessarily an apples and apples sort of situation.
Oh, I see. Nothing to compare. But as far as what was the ratio from who was there, who voted that day, and who, would it be 50-50?
No. It was probably, you know, ballpark figure about 22% of the voters were early votes.
We were talking earlier about the voting machines being important if COVID continues, that people can use that mail-in and they won't have to go to the polls.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the...
And there is legislation on the books now that allows us to have drop boxes for mail voting, and that would probably be something that I would like to explore, at least for our building here.
Oh, yes.
I'm very apprehensive about putting a drop box at locations outside of our office. I've seen too many YouTube videos of somebody with a pickup truck and big chains hauling something big away.
Really?
Yeah. And it wasn't voting equipment, but certainly it could be. We were fortunate to use the treasurer's drop box for the November election, and for some of our ballots that worked out well. Some of our ballots that are normal sized ballots, they were a little bit wider, so on the drop it would get stuck, so we had to bring out the locksmith to open that up and get the ballots down. On 2 or 3 occasions we had to have them do that. So,
but they got in, they got voted, they got counted.
Oh, absolutely, everything got counted. It just, it became, I think we spent $500 on the locksmith for that period for the election, and I can get a drop box for almost, $1,000. So
that has a wider opening.
Right.
Okay.
So,
anybody on Zoom want to ask a question of Mr. Hendrickson? Well, I guess you've done everything right.
Well, we try. So thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thanks for being here. Mr. Blair, what would you add for us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I know last month I mentioned this, and I think it bears repeating with just kind of dovetailing with what Dan Hendrickson had just said. We did spend some time recently making sure that we entered all of our 2020 homestead exemptions, the senior exemptions, all of those types of exemptions before extension started, so that the extension and the tax rate calculation is as accurate as possible. And along with that, our busiest thing that's going on right now is a lot of traffic for homestead exemptions for 2021. And so that's what we've been going through in the last month or so, is a lot of traffic at the counter with with 2021 homestead exemptions and senior freezes, that kind of thing, disabled person exemptions. While we work through that, we have, I'm still waiting for the state to give us a detailed sales list on our sales ratio study. And then once we get through that, we'll get a certified sales ratio study from them for 2020. But those are the things that we're kind of looking at. I know this is a brief report this morning, but that's really what we have in front of us at the moment. And I would entertain any questions at this time if you have any questions for me.
Is there a question? Were you going to mention about the mailing addresses too? You're just updating those?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing, thank you for reminding me. The other thing that we're working through right now, and we will be doing this until the tax bills are printed, we do work to maintain the ownership of record for tax bill mailing addresses in the database for the tax bill mailings all the way through the time that the treasurer hits the button to create the file. So that's the other thing that we're working through until early May when the treasurer goes to print the bills.
I just think that's a critical task, because you don't want those bills coming back. Nobody's going to pay bills that come back.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And that was a point of emphasis when I took over years ago, that we need to make sure that we are as up to date as possible. And it's one of those things, and I think I've told this story in committee before, but you know, even if we make sure that the day that the treasurer is going to hit the button and create the file, let's say he does it at lunchtime, if we get everything caught up through lunch that day through the recordings, as soon as he hits the button, somebody's going to record something in the recorder's office that's going to make it a little bit out of date. But that's the nature of the business. But at least we are as caught up as we can possibly be, and that's the goal that I have with my staff, and they do a great job of making sure that that gets done and make sure that the tax bills go to the right place in the right name to the highest degree possible.
Thank you for that, sharing that. Okay, anything else? Oh, Mr. Okay.
That's all I had for you.
Thanks for being here today. Thank you.
Have a nice day, folks.
Thank you. So we've approved the recorder's report. Lori will highlight what she'd like to highlight, but we just say it's up again. It's high again.
It is.
And higher than, if you look at the 2020, it's higher than most of those months.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Goodness, so
if you're in the market for buying or selling, things are moving very quickly. So that's a good thing. We'd like to see this momentum continue on.
Even though the housing market is depressed, people are just changing houses. Is that what most?
Pretty much, yeah. Oh. Now's the time to get a new address, I guess.
Upgrade or whatever you want to do. Move.
Upgrade, downgrade, yeah.
Well,
yep. And commercially, or those properties seem to be doing very well right now too. So.
Okay. So, is there a question? I wanted to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
I found this in my mom's things, and it is an abstract of title. The thing that's interesting to me is that property, for example, this is dated 1843.
Oh, okay.
That the property is started before a house is ever on it.
Right.
That doesn't seem...
Well, that's because you buy property, you don't really buy a house. People don't understand that, but yes. So
you buy property and put a house.
You buy the property and put the house on it. So even my house today, let's say, somebody wanted to buy my property and tear the house down and put a new house on. They're buying the dirt. Yes.
So this is a little ways south of the Bradley Library is where this is.
Okay.
On Fulton Avenue.
Okay.
And it just was amazing to me that it was originally listed as North Kankakee, Kankakee, and then also now known as Bradley.
Right.
And so everything that happened to that property from 1843 is listed there, right? Who did what, and just pages and pages and pages until it gets to 1950 when my parents bought the property, and then that becomes a whole abstract. Are those pages in your office? Is down to the question. Are those pages?
We don't have abstracts of title, but we have the actual deeds that are reflected in all of this, except for 1843 was considered Will County.
Is that right?
As it says it right here. So we weren't Kankakee County until February 11th of 1853.
Look at you.
So, yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
And then it scooped down a little ways. Oh my goodness.
Yes. We actually were part of Iroquois. We were part of Will and a little part of Livingston.
Is what it was. And
Yes.
then
And then we became Kankakee County.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Wouldn't be able to, the abstract of title is a document.
Right.
But the deeds are what's
Right.
in your office to find.
So abstracts of title are what title companies, what they call title work today, a chain of title. They don't really do this anymore, except for like historical farms, if you have a 100-year farm or whatever. These are really great documents to have to help solidify chain of ownership.
Oh, yeah.
So, but today, really, you just come into my office, you give us your PIN number, your address, or your name, and we'll find what you're looking for. Or the title companies come in, and they're still in there every day doing what they need to do.
So they come online too, but they also come in literally
Yes.
come in line
Yes.
too.
So, yes, right now you can search and find most from 67 forward, except for that gap. Those gaps
little-
we're working on. If you know the document number, you can pull it. Otherwise, you do need to contact us, and we'll help you out.
Well, then it's just good to know that, this is ownership of property is so important, and fact and truth of ownership is really, really
Yes,
important. And
it
to know that
is.
your office has that and people can find it, that's even better, isn't it?
Yes.
And you don't have to have, like, I don't have to have a personal interest in that property anymore to investigate.
It's public record. You are welcome to come in and search. The only thing you do not have access to are the military restricted documents.
Oh, well.
So,
Any other questions? So you're issuing an invitation to come in.
always. We love people coming into our office and asking questions, and we'll help you kind of find what you're looking for or more than you were looking for.
Right. Okay. Anything else? Hey, thank you so much.
All right.
for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Everyone have a great day.
Safe day. Miss Laird, I'm glad you're here today. You've been
thank you.
places already today, haven't you? You've been
I have, yeah.
busy
I went this morning, so I'm back early. So for the report, I know last month the February report got attached, or didn't get attached, but I just wanted to highlight the donations. I know we talked about it last month, but donations are on here for the entire year. We received $8,200 so far. As you can see, last year was $1,100 up to this date last year. So we have purchased a few things with those donation funds, as far as an otoscope, an iPad for the officers that are on call, medications for some of the pets, and stuff like that were set aside for those specific donations.
And you were going to have a covered run outside, weren't you? Is that another part of it?
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to have snow at this time, so we had anticipated going out there when it's gotten warmer, and it hasn't really quite warmed up yet. So I was at Menards recently looking at the prices for them. They are more expensive than I anticipated, but we're looking at replacing some of the runs altogether rather than just the covers on some of them.
Well, and then that column says $8,204.50. That's part of that $7,000 that you were talking about.
Yes,
before.
yes.
Okay. Well, would you talk to us about the $54,000 in registrations this month?
So that is, our registrations get a little bit behind each month because the registration clerk makes sure everything is actually lined up perfectly for what the veterinarians give to us and what is actually reported as far as what we receive. So those are a little bit behind each month, and so we're playing catch up a little bit, but those have been steadily increasing each year.
Yes.
I just sent a report to the sheriff about our registration has increased dramatically each year. I'm curious to see what it's going to be for next year with more animals coming into the county in 2020 because of the pandemic. I'm anticipating it being, more and more registration each year.
Mm-hmm. And then the village revenue is doubled from last month, and that is that due to the Bourbonnais?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They paid half now and paying half during the middle of the year for their budget, and so that is half of that is Bourbonnais.
And recent meetings, any recent meetings with other municipalities?
I know the sheriff was going to talk to a couple of municipalities because they expressed interest, but I have not heard back yet. He does talk to them, I think, once a month at a chief's meeting.
Okay. Any questions, or do you want, what else would you like to add, Carrie?
I don't have much, just knowing that it's kitten season, so we are starting to pick up with the cats. Currently, we have 0 strays in our building. Every dog we have is ours, but all the cats, and actually all the cats we have are ours too. We've had a litter of kittens born, and luckily a rescue was able to take them right away.
But you did deal with 77 animals, as your report says, in March, so.
Yes.
Adopted, though, 14 that were, dogs that were adopted were through another agency, through.
Yes, 12 of them were sent to rescue, and we adopted 2 out.
And that's good, that's good news. Those are good things, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, did we announce the building, status of the building? Can that be announced here? The sale? Oh, the sale?
Yeah, so I think the chairman. I'm trying to figure out what was said in executive session. There has been an offer made on the property, not on a building, on a property.
Oh,
So the property we own south of town.
Yeah.
That's all we're able to discuss right
right
now.
now, that's,
Yeah.
but that was something we knew was there was a contract or an agreement to try to sell it.
Correct.
And so that's in the process. That's probably the best that we should say now.
Exactly.
Process of selling the building south of the property south of town. So that would be good. That would be an income for you. if that
Definitely,
happens.
yes. Hopefully able to put that towards a new building.
Yep.
Because ours is steadily falling apart.
It's not even steadily, right? It's pretty fastly.
Quite rapidly, yes.
Quite rapidly. The only other thing we often emphasize is the euthanasia, and the report says 2 of them were persons who brought them in as an owner wanting them euthanized, and the other 2 were because of behavior or sickness. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions? Comments? Thank you for your good work and for coming today. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Parker, what would you add for our AWAC meeting, the welfare meeting?
Well, we're still waiting on the wildfowl signs. We want to get those in place as soon as we can. And our next meeting will be in May. We are currently working on the trap, neuter, vaccinate, release program. We haven't met this month because of just conflicts of different times. So we're hoping to be able to meet in the next couple of weeks and get that rolling. And then working with the state's attorney on our forum, at, whether it be at KCC or at Zoom.
All right, so there were a lot of things to report at the last meeting, and the board did approve the ordinance. So that's in effect. So we're just kind of checked off things, and during this month we were in process of a lot of other things and waiting for May then.
Right, we've regrouped and we're moving forward. We're just real proud of the things that we were able to do in the last couple of years, and now we have some big goals that's going to take a little time to plan and implement. So we're working very hard. We have a good committee working hard.
Thank you for your report and for being here too. I appreciate it. Okay, are there new business items or old business items? Are there any other things you would like to add? Ms. Bryan, you want to add something? You don't want to close? How about Mr. Smith? He moves to adjourn. I second. Oh, you would like to second now? Okay, right. Oh, I'm sorry. Except that, okay. Thank you for being here, Mr. Crickstrom. All in favor of adjourning at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Motion's carried.